friend, and sometimes old fart, Warren Kinsella. How are you?
I'm an old fart. I'm an old fart. I'm here in the woods in my cabin, and I just want all you Easterners to know I don't call it a cottage. I'm a Westerner. It's a cabin.
the first the first time I got rhetorically spanked, more like having my you know what handed to me, was in Alberta. It was the first place that I lived outside of outside of the old country, Hungary, but that doesn't count. I came to Canada when I was two, so grew up in Quebec, and the first time I left for a job, I was 18 years old, and I was in Alberta, and they were asking me about what I liked best about living in Quebec. And I said, the country house. And they said, the country house? Are you some kind of earl or a lord? Or are you kidding? I said, I come from a family where we didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. There's just a little country house, little shack about 60 miles north of Montreal. And they said to me, that's not a shack and that's not a country house. That's a cabin. So that was the first time I.
Right. Well, that's Westerners. Just
Yeah,
so anybody, there are differences in this country. So in the West, you call it a cabin. In central Ontario, which considers itself the center of the universe, they call it a cottage. But in Quebec, they often call it a camp, don't they? So I'm
they
not
do
going to the
call it a
camp.
camp, but when I was growing up, let's call it I don't know, the Anglo population. I was technically Allophone. I don't want to bog down on that because I'm not of English extraction. So those people who weren't British, but English was the language they used. They were called Allophones. So I was an
Right.
Allophone, and those of us who were Anglophones and Allophones, we called it a country house, and sometimes people call it a camp. But yeah, in the West, it's a cabin, and even those people. I mean, I'm based in Manitoba now, and some of the people who are complaining loudest about the increase in the capital gains tax in the latest budget, they've got their houses in northwestern Ontario, Lake of the Woods, and they still call it a cabin, even when it's $4, $5, or $6 million. It's a cabin. So yes, out west here in the Wild West, it's a cabin. You're in central Ontario calling it a cabin, which makes you, of course, somewhat radical, but it lets everyone know that part of you is Western. By the way, without bogging down on this too much, you've lived just like yours truly. You've lived in a lot of places. How many years were you actually based in Alberta? Was it 10, 15? Like how many years were you actually based there? You're,
Well, it depends how you define the word base. So sorry to be a lawyer. My parents were in Calgary for 30 years. So, I would, when I was penniless or whatever, so I came back for law school, did high school in Calgary, journalism in Ottawa. So they were there until 2003, and then they moved to Kingston. So, in the family, excuse me, had some yogurt for breakfast and it always sets me off. Um, they 30 years. So like it's funny because some people who are not nice people like you said, "Oh, you're not a Westerner. You're not a Westerner," and you've lived in central Canada now for so many years, and they're right on that. But I just feel like I am a Westerner. I think it's where you spend, especially your teenage years, wherever you spend time as a teenager. And those are the friends you keep your whole life. And it just feels like home. And, the West still feels like home to me. And I think the reason why I bought this place, which would not have attracted capital gains, I built it, designed it, and built it for $170,000. So that was pretty good, but it's probably worth more than that now. Because it reminds me of the West. I'm very lucky here. I'm surrounded by an old growth forest. There's nobody around. It's quiet, and it's like being up at Gull Lake in north of Calgary. That's what it feels like.
but I see no stuffed animals or deer guns.
No, while I'm um, hunting, I don't know what you feel about hunting. I certainly understand people who do it. They're not sadists for the most part. the Trump sons are. But I've just never done it. I just don't hunt. I'm a gun owner, as you know, but the hunting thing has just never turned my crank. I guess I've always been too busy doing other stuff.
Well, a fellow Westerner of yours, Lauren Gunter, was quoting another Westerner from a university in Calgary. And he told me years ago that that particular Westerner, who was a professor at the University of Calgary, he said that in Alberta, conservatives have only two tribes, Bible thumpers and duck hunters. So clearly, Warren Kinsella, you're from Calgary, but you're not either of those. You must not be a conservative.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't feel like I'm a liberal these days. It's funny. Yesterday, tell you a little story. In student politics, that's when it's most intense. So I was president of the student union at Carleton, and I had a coalition of liberals and Tories who backed me. We swept the student elections. We took every single seat except for two. And one of my arch enemies in student politics, just as we become older guys, we become friends. So I went to see him at the Belleville train station. He was heading back to Europe where he lives with his family, travels all over the world. This guy, he's an amazing guy. Like, he's the guy who took the letter from the Israeli prime minister talking about peace talks, took it to Sadat and got that process going. He's a very impressive guy, but he was on the left. I was supposedly on the right. I didn't feel like I was. We're sworn enemies. And I just said to him, look at us. We're two old guys here now sitting in the Belleville train station, and we're friends. And we've connected after so many years. And how awesome is that? So there you go, boys and girls. You won't be as angry when you get older. I don't think. I hope.
And so, for the record, and I won't prosecute this any further, but for the record, neither Carleton nor Belleville is in Alberta.
No, they ain't. But Prince Edward County, I swear to God,
yeah.
The woman I bought my place from there was from Saskatchewan. And I said, why'd you buy it? She was the third owner. I'm the fourth. And she said, because it reminds me of home. And I said, it reminds me of Alberta, just the geography and everything else. So,
by the way, by the way, they say that even a broken clock, is
mine is. See that one? It's broken.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm talking to a guy who sees himself as a Westerner. No rifles, no stuffed bears, and a broken clock. But the cabin reminds him of Alberta, and so we're gonna park all that Western lore there, and just go right for what's happening in the jugular that you still pay most attention to, and that is liberal politics. Because being a former liberal, why wouldn't you? Is Dominic LeBlanc, who, for my money, is one of the best warriors the Liberal Party has, is he going to war against Justin Trudeau?
He's not going to war. They're best friends. Like, they are best friends. Dominic and I, just full disclosure, when I was Chrétien's special assistant, the guy in the next office was Dominic. He was Chrétien's Atlantic desk, as they called it, guy. Because he's the son of Romeo LeBlanc, who's, full disclosure, was the godfather of my daughter, Emma. And we were close. Dominic and I were very close. And but nobody was closer to Justin Trudeau than Dominic. So this week, you and I and other political weirdos spotted this Lawrence Martin column that dropped in the Globe. And this column flat out stated Dominic LeBlanc, Justin Trudeau's best friend, is organizing for the Liberal leadership. And I said, hallelujah. I now get to rub Charles' nose in it, and Brian Lilly and everybody else. All you fucking guys who said that I was wrong, that Trudeau's going, you're like, oh no, Warren, he's not going to leave. Sorry, he's going to be there forever. It's like, oh yeah? So Martin's column dropped, right? And it was actually kind of a weird way for the Globe to do it, because it's big news. And I trust Lawrence Martin because he knows the Liberal Party really, really well. And old veteran at the Globe. Anyway, so the best reporter in the Globe's Ottawa bureau Ms. Walsh, after Bob Fife and Stephen Chase went after Dominic and chased him through the halls of Parliament yesterday and said, "Are you organizing?" And he would not deny it. And, are you after his job? And he had people confirm it. Dominic LeBlanc would not be organizing for Liberal leadership if he didn't know that his best friend is leaving. Like, I'm sorry. That would destroy their friendship. And it's a friendship that's lasted for nearly 60 years. There's no fucking way that this is happening without his knowledge and belief that Justin's going.
Are you suggesting that Dominic LeBlanc of New Brunswick has Justin Trudeau's blessing to run for a leadership which would take place before the next election?
Interesting question. Trudeau, I suspect, when he's throwing the football for the last time, I think he probably knows he should be seen throwing it at a female candidate, because the Liberal Party has never had a female leader. I mean, even the Conservatives did for a summer, but the Liberals haven't. So that would make it tricky for him. Here's his best friend, who's a guy who's after the job and is a very credible candidate. And then you've got, Chrysler Freeland and Melanie Joly and Anita Anand. And I'm not a big fan of Joly, as you know, but I think the other two are capable people. So it creates a bit of a dilemma for Trudeau. When a leader gets involved in selection, it causes problems. Like Mulroney, when he left, he let it be known he favored Kim Campbell over Jean Charest. Charest never forgot that, I don't think. And that obviously was a big mistake. Chrétien,
that wasn't included in Charest's eulogy recently in the Basilica.
Well, I think they made peace. Mulroney made peace with a lot of people, I think, after he got sick. And, including my boss, Chrétien. Chrétien was smart. When he left, he didn't indicate that he preferred Alan Rock or anybody over Paul Martin. He just said, it's time for me to go. So that's the best way to go. But, it looks to me, based upon the reporting that we're seeing in the paper this morning, what's been taking place since Lawrence's column, this is why I say he's going.
So are you suggesting that the walk in the snow will take place in the snows of December this year?
Well, I got March wrong, right? I said it was going to be March.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
Then I said it was going to be April, and April's shrinking to a close. So I'm going to stop predicting when he's going to do it. I'm just going to keep predicting that he is going to do it.
Your prediction based on solid reporting that you believe to be solid. Your prediction is that whether it's Dominic LeBlanc or anyone else, Justin Trudeau will not be facing Pierre Poilievre in the next go.
No, he's not. He's like, I know, and this is a crazy problem for Conservatives. Whenever I say that he's going, they're like, "Oh no, his ego's too big," and it's like, you don't know. You're just some guy on fucking Twitter. You don't know anything. Forgive me for having helped run 3 national campaigns that all won, by the way. Like, Trudeau's not stupid. I think he's made some bad decisions, but he's not stupid. And he can read the polls as much as anybody else. Abacus has got it at 20 points. Justin Trudeau doesn't want to be the guy who presides over a loss of that magnitude. And even if Nanos is right with 15 points, it's still a massacre. He does not want that. So he's going to go. And now we hear his best friend is openly organizing for the leadership. He's going. There you go.
All right. We don't have to go any further on that. He's going. You've been wrong a couple of times on timing, but the substance of the story you stand behind. Justin Trudeau will not be Liberal leader in the next election. So let's just move on from.
You frighten me when you adopt that prosecutorial cross-examination approach. You should have gone to law school. You should have gone to law school.
Yeah. So I hate to do a Kinsella on you, but you remind us from time to time that you've never lost an election for Jean Chrétien.
Well, I lost when I ran.
Right.
I ran for him and I lost.
So in the spirit of Kinsella, I've never lost a case, Counselor. Let's go to the Middle East. The Israelis have now responded to the attack from Iran, where hundreds of missiles, ballistic missiles, drones were thrown at Israel, and one 7-year-old child was wounded in the desert near, I guess, what you'd call a military facility, an Israeli military facility. But for all intents and purposes, that strike on Israel was, from a military perspective, a great big dud. So the Israelis have responded. Nobody is calling the Israeli response mighty. Nobody is calling it ferocious. It appears to be a little bit of tit for tat. Asking for a prediction on something very, very important here, Warren. Is this round over, this business of Iran versus Israel?
I don't know. And I've got a lot riding on it personally, because I'm supposed to be leaving for Israel 2 weeks from today. So you and I will have to figure out the time zones and talking, because, you know, if we talk at 8 o'clock, it means it's going to be 1 a.m. for you. It looks to me like this is it. I'm not a military strategist, but I think what the Israelis were signaling to the Iranians is, unlike you, we can reach right into your most vulnerable places without any meaningful opposition, and we can blow up your infrastructure if we want to. And by the way, we're not going to harm any children in the way that you did. So I think they were sending a message, and it was showing, you know, some considerable restraint, because, you know, when somebody fires 300 missiles at you, under international law, you are permitted to respond. You're permitted to take action. And so they have. The Iranians are now saying, okay, it's over. We don't want to have any more fight. So if that's the case, I'll be heading to Israel in a couple of weeks. But I'm watching it really, really carefully, trying to discern what it means. As of this morning, I think what it means is Israel sent a strong message to Iran. You fuck around, you're going to find out, right?
All
you
right.
do that again, you're going to be sorry.
So from an economic point of view, inflation is still a little more tender than we want it to be. Interest rates higher than we want them to be. And the price of gasoline at the Canadian pumps, including those moments away from where you're sitting in central Ontario, up 13, 14 cents a liter this week. Much of that is being attributed to what's known as summer gas. So, I mean, this happens every year in the summer.
Right.
The blend being used is more expensive, so gas prices go up. So, just to get back to politics for a few moments, if everyone knows that's the reason for the increase of 13, 14 cents in Ontario, and of course, that'll be the increase all over the country. But the question is, with the Conservatives so far ahead in the polls, whether it's Abacus or Nanos or Ipsos or anybody, if they're so far ahead in the polls, why do they have to maintain every time there's any kind of gas price increase that it's about Justin Trudeau's carbon tax? I'm sorry, Melissa Lansman is one of the smartest people in the world, but when she says stuff like that, or Pierre Poilievre when he says stuff like that, frankly, Warren, it just sounds stupid.
Yeah, but it's working for them politically. So, like, you know, like, you're not 20 points ahead by, you know, people want something to blame in politics, and they're blaming the carbon tax. You're quite right. I was listening to Dan McTagg yesterday as I was driving back to the county and driving up here, and he said this is the changeover from the additives that are in winter gas to summer gas, right? I think it's butane. Anyway, I don't understand it, but he said this is the main reason for it. Now, the action against Iran last night sent up the price per barrel by 4%. So you're going to see that at the pumps too. But I stopped in Coburg. You know, I filled up because I had no choice, and it was $1.80. And it's way worse in the Lower Mainland and other places in the country. And, like, people, it just makes people mad. And so, you know, Poilievre is very good at harnessing that anger and directing it towards Justin Trudeau, as you pointed out. But I think it's a mistake. Like, you know, all these Tories, the Tory caucus and the Tory candidates, I said to them, boys and girls, the one thing I learned in law school, I don't remember any cases. I don't remember any statutes. I remember one thing that my professor, Chris Levy, in criminal law, where I got one of the best marks, said, always, sorry, I couldn't help myself.
You can never help yourself. Your ego is bigger. Here it is. I'm going to say it on the record. Your ego is larger than Justin Trudeau's.
You're just jealous because I'm so good looking. Anyway, Chris Levy said, always ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? Their whole campaign is predicated on Justin staying. Yeah. Now, I imagine some of them have the prayer beads out this morning, reading, now the Globe is reporting straight out that Justin Trudeau's best friend is organizing for the leadership. It's like, holy shit, what's our plan B? So this is where the carbon tax and all this other stuff they've been saying, blaming on Justin, it's just not going to work because Justin's going to be gone. And guaranteed, whoever successor it is going to say, well, because especially since the NDP is now against the carbon tax, because that carbon tax gone, got rid of it. So then Pierre's lost the one thing he's been talking about for a year. Look, what is the Tory campaign when Trudeau's gone? That's the mistake I think they've made, is I have not been able to discern a plan B yet.
So I don't want to go too far afield on this, but if you're saying, even McTague, who for all intents and purposes is a big conservative supporter now, the gas body, a former liberal, probably not a friend of yours because he was a huge supporter of Paul Martin's attempted coup. I don't want to get down that rabbit trail too much either. But the point is, if even Dan McTague is saying, children, this isn't about the carbon tax. This is about the summer blend and what the fuel companies are charging. And that's why we've got this big increase in Ontario and all across Canada. In Vancouver, price of gas is over $2 a liter. So if even McTague is saying that, and you've got the Conservatives saying carbon tax, Justin Trudeau, I mean, to my ear, it sounds stupid. I get what you're saying, that politically that's been working for them. But here's my question. If it does sound stupid, not just to yours truly, but to others, or it sounds like a really bad lie, down the road, don't you think someone like your friend Dominic LeBlanc can make the case that these guys are either stupid or they're lying? Dominic LeBlanc isn't shy, not just like you're not shy. Nobody in New Brunswick is shy. Don't you think that matters?
There you go again, talking about facts when we're talking about politics. Okay, there you go again. I know, see, you're a decent and honest person, Charles, and you believe in information and provable fact.
Yes,
but
I
those
do.
of us who work in politics don't. We don't. So I don't give a shit what you're saying about the carbon tax and the reality of it and price per gas. People are pissed off and they want someone to blame. They're not going to blame the guy in the mirror, right? They're not going to blame their kids. They're going to blame Justin Trudeau, whether it's fair or accurate or not. That's politics. That's how it works. So, they're mad right now. But what I'm saying is the whole Tory campaign is predicated on anger directed at one man. What is your plan when that man goes? They don't have one.
All right. Warren Kinsella, my plan is to talk to you again next week, whether you're in Israel.
Already finished? We're already finished?
Well, you start getting into all that Western stuff that you get into, trying to pretend that you're a cowboy when you're really a dandy. You're an artist, you're a liberal.
Oh, you're lucky you're not here, pal. Yeah. And I'd teach you a lesson.
Yeah, well, if I was there, I'd give you a real beat down, as we sometimes say in the West, with your broken clock. By the way, by the way, is there, because you're so full of symbolism, you're like a cult. Okay, symbolism really matters to you. Is there something relevant about 8 minutes before 6 o'clock, which is what it is on your clock?
I just like the position of the hands, really. But it's one of those nice IKEA clocks, nothing fancy. And I kept putting batteries in it. It's like, what the hell? And I thought, screw it. I'm not going to get a new clock. I'm just going to hang the broken one and see who notices it. Charles Adler, who's preoccupied with facts, he noticed it. You're one of the first people to notice it.
Warren Kinsella, whether you're in Israel, Iran, or you're the man on the moon, I guess you were in the Caribbean last time. There was a
Yeah, I
movie
was in
once called
Jamaica. Yeah.
"If It's Tuesday, It Must Be Belgium." So if it's Friday, which is when we always record this one, if it's Friday, it must be Warren Kinsella somewhere on the planet. I'm very, very lucky to have you as a friend. You can tell me to FO or any of those other Western things that you say
Well, you called
anytime.
me a dandy. That hurts.
That
That
yeah, I did. Um,
I don't look like a dandy, do I?
you've got a whole week to think up some Irish revenge. Thank you,
All
Warren.
right. Thanks, my friend.
That's Warren.